You believe you're making your own choices. But what if you're not? What if your thoughts, your preferences, and even your moral beliefs are quietly being shaped by mental shortcuts you didn't choose and cognitive traps you don't even know exist? These invisible forces operate silently, behind the curtain of your awareness, influencing not only what you think, but how you think. And here's the scariest part. Most people never realize it. Inspired by Nobel laureate Daniel Kahneman's thinking, fast and slow, this video will walk you through some of the most powerful and subtle psychological traps hardwired into our minds. These traps don't just affect scholars or scientists, they affect you. When you scroll, when you shop, when you fall in love, when you make a decision. Let's begin with a classic. Cognitive dissonance. Imagine this. A fox tries to reach a bunch of grapes but fails. So instead of accepting defeat, it walks away muttering, "They were probably sour anyway." This ancient fable gives us a timeless insight into human psychology. When your actions and beliefs don't align, you feel tension. So your mind rewrites the story to make it feel okay. Didn't get the job? It wasn't that great anyway. Can't quit smoking? It helps me stay focused. Want to be rich, but think rich people are evil? I'll be the good rich person. That inner contradiction is called cognitive dissonance, and it's exhausting. Left unchecked, it can lead to anxiety, self-sabotage, and even depression. Ask yourself, what belief am I clinging to that no longer matches my behavior? Am I just rewriting reality to make myself feel better? The spotlight effect. You spill coffee on your shirt. You arrive late. You forget someone's name. You feel like everyone's watching, judging, whispering. But here's the truth. They're not. This is the spotlight effect. The illusion that we are at the center of everyone's attention. In reality, people are too busy thinking about themselves to focus on your mistakes. Understanding this can free you. You don't need to be perfect. You're not under a microscope. Most people didn't even notice what you're obsessing over. Anchoring bias. You're buying a car. The dealer shows you one for $90,000. Then a cheaper one for $50,000. Now the $50,000 car feels like a bargain. Why? Because your brain was anchored to the first number. Anchoring bias makes our decisions irrationally tethered to the first piece of information we see, even if it's random. Kahneman found that even experienced judges give longer prison sentences based on the roll of loaded dice. Think about that. A random number influenced a legal decision. So ask yourself next time, am I making this choice, or was it already made for me by the first number I saw? You think you're being fair. You think you see the world objectively. But in reality, your brain loves to cut corners, and it's shockingly biased in how it forms opinions. In this part, we'll explore 3 powerful mind traps that distort how you see people, patterns, and value. Sparkles 1. The halo effect. You meet someone attractive. They seem warm, confident, and charismatic. Minutes later, you've already decided they're probably smart, successful, maybe even kind. But here's the twist. None of those other traits were ever proven. The halo effect occurs when one positive trait, like beauty, status, or intelligence, creates a mental glow that colors how we see everything else. It's why we trust celebrities selling toothpaste. It's why we assume graduates from Ivy League schools are automatically competent. It's why first impressions matter more than we'd like to admit. Think of it this way. If someone tells you this person is a Harvard graduate, you're more likely to excuse their bad behavior because your brain has already wrapped them in a halo. In relationships, this can be dangerous. The early honeymoon phase is often nothing but halo-colored vision. You ignore red flags because the person is so kind, so funny, so perfect. Question to ask, am I liking this person or the image I've created of them? Game night 2. The gambler's fallacy. Flip a coin 3 times. It lands on heads, then heads again, then heads. Now imagine you're betting your own money. Would you bet the next toss is finally tails? Most people do, because we think the universe needs to balance out. But the truth? The coin doesn't care. This is the gambler's fallacy, the belief that past random outcomes influence future ones. Casinos love this bias. So do stock market traders, sports fans, and even judges. A study at the University of Chicago showed that asylum judges were 19% less likely to approve a case if they had just approved the previous 2, regardless of the facts. Human minds crave patterns. But not everything is one. Ask yourself, am I making a decision based on facts or based on a pattern that only exists in my mind? 3. The contrast effect. You walk into a luxury store. The first bag you see is $8,000. The next one is $2,000. Suddenly, $2,000 feels like a bargain. This is the contrast effect. We judge things not by their absolute value, but by comparing them to whatever came first. Retailers use it constantly. A $50 shirt looks cheap next to a $300 one. A $10 side dish seems reasonable when the main course is $70. A $500 apartment feels affordable if you just looked at a $900 one. It also applies to people. If you meet someone amazing right after someone rude, they seem extra impressive. But meet them after someone charming, and they seem dull. Question to ask: am I making this judgment based on value or contrast? Philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them." Your brain is a storyteller, and the stories it tells are fast, emotional, and often wrong. That's why understanding these traps is so powerful. Once you name them, you can tame them. Once you see them, they lose their power. Ever wondered why some people only see what they want to see? Why do people can look at the same facts and walk away with completely different conclusions? It's not just stubbornness. It's how your brain is wired. This section reveals 3 mental traps that shape your reality without your permission. 1. Confirmation bias. You have a belief, maybe about politics, health, relationships, yourself, and then you Google it. You click the first few articles that confirm what you already believe. You ignore or forget anything that challenges you. That's confirmation bias. The unconscious tendency to seek, interpret, and remember information that supports what we already think. It's why conspiracy theories spread. It's why political arguments never end. And it's why we can be so confident and still completely wrong. Social media turbocharges this. Algorithms show us only what we already agree with, reinforcing our bias inside an echo chamber. The philosopher Karl Popper said, "Science advances by refutation, not confirmation. But most people only search for proof, not truth." Ask yourself, am I really open to being wrong? Or am I just building a stronger case for the belief I already have? 2. The Baader-Meinhof phenomenon. You learn a new word, and suddenly you see it everywhere. You buy a new car, and suddenly it's on every street. Coincidence? Not quite. This is the Baader-Meinhof effect. Once you become aware of something, your brain starts noticing it more, not because it's happening more, but because now it matters to you. Your brain filters reality. It can't process everything. So it chooses what to notice, based on what it thinks you care about. That's powerful and dangerous. If you're always focused on negativity, you'll start seeing it in every conversation. If you're focused on danger, your world will feel unsafe. If you're focused on rejection, even silence feels like an attack. Ask yourself, what am I priming my brain to see? Is the world really like this, or am I just tuned to this frequency? 3. The Zeigarnik effect. Why do you remember unfinished tasks better than completed ones? Why does the email you didn't send, or the conversation you didn't finish, keep nagging you for hours? That's the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain is wired to hold onto incomplete tasks, keeping them active in your memory like mental tabs you forgot to close. Psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik first noticed this when waiters could recall unpaid orders more clearly than the ones already served and paid for. The tension of something unfinished keeps it alive in your mind, especially at night, when your brain finally quiets down. But here's the solution. Just writing down a plan to finish the task often tricks your brain into letting go. Tip: if your mind is racing at night, grab a notebook. Write down what needs to be done and how you'll do it. You'll sleep better and worry less. As Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." You think you're seeing reality, but in truth, you're seeing a mirror of your attention, your expectations, and your unfinished stories. That's why real awareness isn't about adding more knowledge. It's about seeing your filters clearly and sometimes taking them off. Sometimes, the hardest decision isn't between right or wrong. It's between too many right options. And sometimes, the more you know, the more confused you become. Let's explore the final set of invisible traps your brain sets when you're trying to choose, evaluate, or decide. 1. The paradox of choice. More options equals more freedom, right? Not really. In a famous experiment, shoppers were given 24 flavors of jam to choose from. Only 3% made a purchase. But when only 6 flavors were offered, 10 times more people bought. Why? Because too many options overwhelm the brain. You hesitate. You fear making the wrong choice. You freeze. It's the paradox of choice. The more options we have, the less satisfied we feel, regardless of the outcome. Modern life amplifies this. Dating apps, streaming platforms, career paths. You scroll, swipe, research until you're exhausted and unsure of everything. Ask yourself, am I actually choosing or just delaying? As Soren Kierkegaard once said, anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. 2. Anchoring bias. You see a $3,000 watch, then a $600 one. The second one feels like a bargain, even though it's still expensive. That's anchoring. Your brain uses the first number it sees as a reference point, even if it's random. In one study, judges were asked to sentence a woman for shoplifting. But first, they rolled loaded dice, always landing on 3 or 9. Judges who rolled a 9 gave harsher sentences than those who rolled a 3, even though the dice were meaningless. Why? Because even irrelevant numbers anchor your brain's expectations. Tip: before making big decisions, set your own anchor first. Decide your budget, values, and goals before someone else does it for you. 3. The halo effect. You meet someone attractive. Suddenly, you assume they're smart, kind, honest, but you know nothing about them. That's the halo effect. A single positive trait influences your entire perception. This works in reverse too. If someone annoys you once, your brain tags everything they do as bad. It's fast. It's emotional. It's rarely accurate. It affects dating, hiring, friendships, even politics. Ask yourself, am I judging the person or just reacting to the first impression? As Kahneman warned in Thinking Fast and Slow, first impressions are sticky. They distort everything that comes next. 4. The gambler's fallacy. You flip a coin. Heads. Again, heads. Third time, heads. You bet on tails next. It has to happen, right? No. The coin doesn't remember. This is the gambler's fallacy. Believing that past random outcomes influence future ones. It's why gamblers lose fortunes. Why judges subconsciously reject cases they've just accepted 2 of. Why students second-guess answers like C when they've picked it multiple times in a row. Ask yourself, am I expecting balance from randomness? Or can I accept uncertainty without forcing a pattern? You're not irrational because you're stupid. You're irrational because you're human. Your brain evolved to take shortcuts, to reduce complexity, to keep you safe. But those same shortcuts become traps in a world where clarity matters more than speed. As Epictetus said, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about things. When you become aware of these biases, you gain a superpower. You stop being manipulated by your own biology. This isn't about perfection. It's about seeing the strings behind the puppet show and choosing, deliberately, what to believe and how to act. So next time you feel stuck, confused, or overwhelmed, pause, reflect, and ask, is this really me thinking, or just my mind playing tricks on me? Because awareness isn't the end of the journey. It's the beginning of true mental freedom.